So good afternoon and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about this book here, that's Deep Work by Cal Newport. We're going to be taking a look at some of the main ideas, the concepts. I'll be doing a bit of a review and then I'll let you know if I think it's worth checking out. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and today we're going to be taking a look at this book, that's Deep Work by Cal Newport. So before we kick off, if you're new to the channel, if you could consider subscribing, that would be absolutely fantastic, just so that you can keep up to date with all of the videos that we're adding here at Mind School. So let's get started, shall we? So what is this book all about? Well, the main idea, the general concept, is that in order to get a high quality of work done, irrespective of what you do, the way that you approach it, the state of mind that you approach the work is absolutely crucial. And in his book, Cal Newport recommends this approach that he calls, of course, deep work. So his definition of deep work is this here, that it's the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. So maybe it's something like writing or doing a video like this, or maybe it's something else that's relevant to whatever it is that you do in your profession. And by really getting good at deep work, by mastering this skill and being able to really commit to experience and focus on things, then it will allow you to achieve more in less time, create more fulfillment, help you master skills and increase productivity, and no doubt get ripped abs and lose weight as well. That last one, of course, is just a joke. But the general idea is if you want to get high quality of work done, then you have to commit to experience without distractions, give it your full undivided attention. So the book is split into two main parts. Part one is basically where he sells the idea of deep work. And the main thing that he says is that we live in a really distracted world. Our attention is constantly being pulled in multiple different directions by, social media, email, WhatsApp threads, phones, tablets, computers, pinging in lots of different directions. So we're actually training our mind, or our mind is becoming trained to be very fragmented, to be split across multiple different sources. And what that's doing is it's eroding our ability to concentrate, to focus. It's leading to a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, and it's actually causing us to miss out on a lot of fulfillment and happiness in life. And one of the things he's heavily critical of in this section is this obsessive need we seem to have to be connected with everything and everyone all the time. One of the examples he gives is these open plan offices that are quite popular now in the workplace. That sure, the benefit is you are connected with your workmates and you can get information very, very quickly because the person's sitting 100 yards away from you. But the downside is that it leads to massive distraction. It's very difficult to concentrate when there are so many people in your vicinity making noise and asking questions and all manner of different things. What's the point of getting the right information if you can't actually do anything with it because you can't concentrate? And I totally get this. I mean, if you take something like the internet, it's amazing. It gives you access to everything, but also gives everything access to you, which can lead to massive distraction. I know as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I can get caught in this really weird rabbit hole of emails and messages and all sorts of stuff and questions on forums and various different things, and you can end up just totally distracted, and it really does impair the quality of work you get done. So some cool things I liked from this section is, first of all, there's no such thing as multitasking. You can't do it even if you try. That we can only ever do one thing at a time. We can only focus our attention on a single element of our experience. So if we are attempting to do what is often referred to as multitasking, we're basically doing lots of single things really, really badly. And he presents lots of research that shows if you do try to divide your attention like this, you'll end up just getting really crap work done. It massively deteriorates the quality of your experience and the quality of the work that you're doing. Another thing I really loved is that what he says is that deep work also increases your level of fulfillment and happiness in life. That generally we are most satisfied when we're fully immersed in an experience. That's where so much of the joy and pleasure of life exists. And I think this is really quite profound. I think this is the end goal of a lot of mindfulness practices. There's a lot of great things in life. Life has lots of pleasure and joy within it, but we don't get to experience it if we're not present, if we don't immerse ourselves and fully connect with the things that we do in life. The more that you lose yourself, the more that you find yourself, so to speak. And the third thing I thought was really cool about this section was that if you can really get good at doing deep work, then it becomes kind of like a superpower because it's quite rare. Because we are being conditioned to fragment our attention. So many people are distracted that if you can get really good, at really focusing your attention and concentrating and getting good work done, then it increases your value, you increase your output, and ultimately your life gets better as a result. So I thought that was really cool too. So that's some of the cool things I liked from that part. One critique I have of that section is he does really go overboard with his trashing of social media. And I get it, I think things like Facebook and Instagram can definitely be the devil sometimes. But he basically says that, you don't need it as a business owner. It's not really that useful a platform. Now, granted, you don't need it. There's other things you can do. But I've seen so many people successfully create businesses through Facebook and through Instagram and through Twitter that, I think that's slightly kind of biased advice that actually can be really useful. It's maybe not the most healthy way to go about creating a business, but I thought he was a wee bit biased in his opinion with that. But I understand where he's coming from. So that was part one. Then in part two, he goes practical. He outlines his 4 rules of deep work. Basically, he shows you how to do it. So the basic idea, the basic strategy is that whatever it is you're doing in life, you want to commit to that experience. If you've got, say, like 16 things on your to-do list, you might want to reduce that number, but even if you have, each thing on your to-do list, you want to give it your full and undivided attention, as if that's the only thing that you're doing. Then once you're finished with it, you then move on to the next thing on your list. Don't be thinking about, what you're doing on item 5 or 6 when you're doing item 1 or 2. Give everything your full divided attention. It'll increase your output, your performance, it'll reduce stress, reduce overwhelm, and also you'll get much more out of the experience too because you're connecting with it. You're fully immersing yourself in whatever it is that you're doing. Another thing he says in this section is you want to structure your day around what he calls deep work sessions. So a deep work session is where you focus on one activity that is cognitively demanding but obviously important to you for a minimum of 2 hours. Ideally you want to work up to 3, maybe 4 hours, but that might take a little bit of practice because you're used to being a little bit distracted. So say for example you're a writer, you maybe only want to do like 1 or 2 deep work sessions a day. So maybe you'll spend 2 hours immersing yourself in the process of writing, then you have a break, you come back and you do another 2 or 3 hours, and that is you for the day. And if you do that over a prolonged period of time, before you know it, you'll have a book, you'll have a second book, you'll have a third book, you name it, it's going to eventually build up. So another cool thing he talked about in this section was that you can actually replenish your deep work batteries. Because usually if you start off doing deep work, if you're spending 2 or 3 hours on one single thing, you're going to be quite tired at the end of it. So what he says is you can actually replenish those sort of like kind of deep work energy cells. And the way to do that is to go and walk in nature. And I love this, I actually incorporated this into my own day-to-day working life. So I'll spend some time in the morning doing video or doing writing or working on a single task, and then I'll go and walk in the park. I'm lucky I've got a park that's quite close to my office just out there, and so I'll walk in the park and just connect with nature for about half an hour, 40 minutes. I'll have my lunch, and then by the time I come back, I'm feeling invigorated. What you don't want to do to try and replenish your batteries is to go on social media or browse on the internet. What that'll do is it'll actually do the opposite. You'll feel more tired, more stressed, and you'll end up struggling to get going again. So I thought that was a really cool distinction. So the third thing he talks about in this section that I thought was pretty cool was the advice that you want to limit and schedule what he refers to as shallow work. So shallow work is any activity that doesn't require you to focus, to concentrate, that doesn't require a reasonably high level of your cognition. So examples could be browsing the internet or, idly flicking through channels on the TV without really committing to anything. Or the number one, it would be, browsing, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. And the reason why he says it's important to limit this and to schedule it is if you do this too often for a prolonged period of time, it actually then depletes your ability to focus, to concentrate. It's kind of like a breeding ground for ADHD. So if you're finding that you're struggling to concentrate and you're finding that you're not committing to one experience and you're flicking from one to the other, it's probably because you've been doing way too much shallow work. So it's okay to do this. I appreciate that going cold turkey might be a little bit difficult for you, but you really want to limit it. You know, just do it for maybe half an hour a day or an hour a day or whatever, and do it in one single session. Don't kind of like flick between it all over the place. So again, I thought this was tremendous advice. When I actually started to do this, I found my concentration levels started to increase. I started to focus much more easily. My output increased. And it's true, I did start to enjoy life more. My stress started to decrease because I wasn't like flicking through lots of different things and had all these things, you know, pretty much, you know, loading up on my brain. The last piece of advice he gives, in fact, he talks about this time and time again, is quit social media. I appreciate that might not be for everyone. You know, I think it's very good for business. I get lots of use from it. But I think a useful distinction, and this is not from Deep Work, but this is one I got from someone else. I think if you do use social media for business, then you want to be a creator, not a consumer. Because then you are actually using it, you know, productively and by design, and you're not getting pulled into the toxic loops that can often, you know, be present when you become too much of a big consumer of social media. So I think that's really good advice. So that's Deep Work by Cal Newport. Do I recommend it? Absolutely, 100%, a big emphatic yes. It's a fantastic book. It's probably been one of the most useful and transformative books I think I've read in the last 4 or 5 years. I think there's a lot of books out there. You can read like self-help books or, you know, more research-based pop psychology books that, you know, contain a lot of good ideas and some strategies that you can put into use. But there's very few that really do revolutionise the way that you work and the way that you do things. But for me, I would definitely put this in that category. So it's a massive thumbs up for me. So if you want to check out this book, I've put a link to it in the description. It's an Amazon link. Thoroughly recommend you get this. Really, if you implement the practices, it'll make such an amazing difference to your life. So that's all for me for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, this book summary. If you've read the book and you have any different opinions, then feel free to let me know in the comments. So that's all for just now. Have a great week and I'll see you later on.